Low-level villains. Greedy, arrogant, the female lead licks the dog, and when she smiles, she becomes naughty. Advanced villain. Gloomy, noble, patient, adept at disguise, cunning like a fox, indifferent to emotions, willing to resort to any means to achieve their goals, exquisite egoist, and the most crucial charming handsome face. Chen Zhixing travels through the fantasy world and becomes the third prince of the Changsheng family, the antagonist of the Ziwei Chen family. It's okay to be the villain yourself, even the father and mother are all villainous characters in the whole family. Fortunately, the beginning comes with a rebellious understanding. The 100 Refinements Golden Body Classic, plus, the Zhou Tian Hua Xing Ju, plus, the Bull Demon supports the Sky Skill equals, the Bull Demon Hua Xing Jing, Heart Sword Technique plus Refining Divine Breath Technique equals Refining Divine Weapon Technique, Swallowing God Technique, plus, Hua Fa Jing, equals, Swallowing Heaven and Creating Hua Gong, the Law of Separation, plus, the Great Dream of Sitting and Forgetting the Way. Equals, the great law of self-transformation. Chen Zhixing gradually turned his bad hand into rocket by virtue of his rebellious understanding. 20 years later, the protagonist of destiny finally arrived in front of Chen Zhixing. Chen Zhixing smiled slightly and said, "I'm sorry, you're surrounded by my people, and all the techniques you practice are created by me. Feel surprised. Feel off. Guard." Chapter 1. My entire family is a villain. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Doctor, come and take a look. My wife vomits every day, especially when she sees me. She vomits even harder. What's going on? Mr. Chen, your wife is delighted. Seriously. Take it seriously. Jia, I finally have a queen, Chen Tianliang. Dialogue sounds kept coming in and out of my ears. Chen Ji was drowsy and wanted to push aside the blanket to see which despicable guy, who didn't sleep at night, was still here. Pushed, unable to move. The hand feels soft. Chen Ji frowned and kicked fiercely, as if not believing in evil. Oh hey, this little rabbit kicked me. Chen Ji's ear suddenly heard a painful female voice. Immediately afterwards, the voice of the previous Jia rang out again. Jia, you are truly my child from Chen Tianliang. You knew how to kick people even when you were still in your mother's womb. Let's go out, let's not affect my child's rest. With the sound of footsteps and a creaking sound of the door closing, the world in Chen Ji's ear became quiet. Child. In the womb. Chen Ji's whole body trembled, his mouth gradually widened, and a terrifying speculation gradually surged in his mind. Hush. No, right. Did you travel back to your mother's womb? Or was it reborn into the womb? The next moment, Chen Ji had an answer in his heart. A pair of gentle hands gently caressed his house, and a soft voice sounded. Little one, my mother hopes that you will be healthy and peaceful after birth. As for your cultivation talent, it doesn't matter whether you can revitalize our eternal family. Chen Ji quickly sniffed out the key words in this sentence. Talent for cultivation. Eternal family. Well, there's no doubt about time travel. And, is this still a mystical world where one can practice? Chen Ji's heart suddenly brightened up. After all, as a reader who was familiar with online literature in his past life, who wouldn't have had a dream of cultivating immortality and seeking immortality? Besides, listen to me, the eternal family. You can tell right away that our birth is not easy, okay? However, it was not yet time for Chen Ji to fully smile. He seemed to have thought of something, and his closed mouth slowly opened again, feeling a chill in his heart. Wait. The Chen family, a lifelong family. Jia's third Lord Chen Tianliang. Knock on the mud tiles. Isn't this the big villain family in the game, Great Practice? This cultivation game has been played by Chen Ji no less than 10 times in his past life, and he is very familiar with the characters and plot inside. Among them, Chen Zhixing, the son of Chen Tianliang, was also a key villain NPC in the early stage. He has a clear memory of this character. It is precisely this character who, due to his jealousy in the early stages, offended the protagonist in the game, leading to being killed by the protagonist and then committing murder and looting, causing the protagonist to gain weight. This is the beginning of the main storyline of the game, Great Practice. As for the later plot, which was too tacky, the Chen family kept chasing the protagonist, giving him a head and warmth. It's simply fitting the lyrics of that song. No guns, no cannons, the enemy made it for us. At the end of the dog blood plot, the protagonist grows and develops along the way, collecting the harem group and launching an absolute counterattack, pushing the Chen family to the crystal to end. In the game, Chen Tianliang only has one son, which means. Is that the tragic cannon fodder used to start the plot me? Chen Zhi's head is a bit buzzing with melon seeds. Previously, when he was playing games, the person he substituted in was the protagonist, which made him feel like his mom was really sweet. And now, his identity has changed to that tragic villain cannon fodder. He just wants to say this feeling family members, who understands. What should I do? Chen Zhi began to rack his brains to figure out the solution. When the plot reaches the point of offending the protagonist, admit it yourself and not offend it. Soon, Chen Zhi shook his head. Impossible. The game, Great Practice, has a total of 9 main storylines, and the endings of these 9 storylines are completely different. But the beginning of each main storyline is incredibly unified, that is, the protagonist kills Chen Zhixing as the beginning of the plot. Even though there is a main storyline ending where the Chen family and the protagonist laugh and forget their grudges, there is no Chen Zhixing who never dies. Simply put. As an experienced baby. The Chen family can live, but Chen Zhixing must be washed. It's really outrageous. His mother, it's outrageous. It's home. Chen Zhi reached out his small hand and shook away the dangling umbilical cord in front of him, pinching his brow with a headache. So become stronger in cultivation, and by the time you encounter the protagonist, you have already surpassed him in cultivation, and then quickly crush him to death. Chen Zhi began planning Plan B. Halfway through the plan, he shook his head again in frustration. In the game, Chen Zhixing is a cultivation bug with extremely weak cultivation comprehension. As long as there is anything about cultivation, it is that the 7 orifices are connected to the 6 orifices, and there is no understanding at all. On the contrary, he can be called a great master in seeking pleasure and engaging in prostitution and human relations. The 18 postures are self-taught, playing with perfection and reaching the pinnacle. Even countless game players in their past lives jokingly said, "Heaven does not give birth to me, Chen Zhixing, and practicing Tao will last forever like a long night." Let's forget about time travel, how could it be such a commodity? Chen Zhi lowered his hand weakly. This guy's setup is just one word, absolutely. Just as Chen Zhi was feeling very depressed, he suddenly felt his small house tighten. Later, he heard his own mother's silent chanting. Yu Bugong Do is the key to mastering the principles of the Tao and the fundamental principles of the Dharma. Embracing the Yuan and returning to unity, connecting the original intention, absorb the true essence of heaven and earth, and transform into a mixed element. This is the Chen family's longevity technique, the Hunyuan scripture. Chen Zhi raised his eyebrows slightly. The Hunyuan manual is one of the few longevity techniques in the entire game. After practicing it, one can obtain a Hunyuan true power and achieve extraordinary combat power in the same realm. The protagonist in the game, after practicing the Hunyuan manual, is invincible in the same realm and can even go against the upper realm. Of course. The experienced baby Chen Zhixing's pitiful urging of goods is completely devoid of understanding to learn this method. He wouldn't have it, so naturally I wouldn't have it either. Chen Zhi shook his head somewhat disheartened and no longer struggled. Forget it, let's go. Instead of losing at the finish line, it's better to give up at the starting line and save at least a run. Ding. We are randomly selecting full-level talents for you. Ding! You have reached the full level of the anti-heaven intelligence. Suddenly, a cold warning sound came on. Chen Ji's heart suddenly shook. Not waiting for him to experience emotional fluctuations. You have listened to the complete Hunyuan manual, and under the guidance of your rebellious understanding, you have drawn inferences and obtained a more advanced skill, the innate Hunyuan Avenue manual. The classic of congenital mixed Yuan Dao. Practicing during the fetal period can enhance the qualifications of the roots and bones, fill in the deficiencies of the original, and obtain the congenital mixed Yuan Dao body, which will use the power of heaven and earth mixed Yuan. Congenital mixed element Dao body. Chen Zhi was slightly stunned, and then slowly smiled in his heart. What is this called? This is called, as long as the pendulum is opened, the law of time will run. Chapter 2. To be honest, you have a keen eye for people. You are listening at novel full.audio. Next, Chen Zhi began to observe and practice this innate mixed Yuan Dao Jing. He had just been running for a week when a deep sense of fatigue surged in. The mental strength of the fetus is still too weak, Chen Zhi couldn't help but sigh in his heart, and then fell into a deep sleep. In the blink of an eye. A month has passed. During this month, Chen Zhi spent most of his time in a deep sleep state. Occasionally, when he was awake, he began practicing the congenital Hunyuan De Dao Jing. At the full level of comprehension, Chen Zhi's cultivation speed progressed rapidly, changing almost every day. He could feel incredibly clearly that the deficiencies in his body were gradually being compensated for. The originally blocked tendons and veins are naturally opened up one by one during cultivation, and begin to move towards the innate mixed element Dao body. The blockage of these tendons represents the speed of cultivation in the day after tomorrow. The more blockage, the slower the cultivation speed. The reason why Chen Zhixing, the tragic villain in the game, practiced too slowly and decided to give up his practice in the future is partly because his muscles and veins are blocked too much. The blocked tendons and veins have been partially unblocked, and in no more than 3 months, all the blocked tendons and veins can be unblocked, obtaining a true congenital mixed element Dao body. Chen Zhi silently thought in his heart. During this month, not only did he lay a solid foundation, but his spiritual strength also improved significantly due to his practice of the congenital mixed Yuan Dao Jing. He had been asleep for almost 23 hours the previous day, 24 hours a day. But now it's different. He can stay awake for at least 3 hours a day. Continue practicing. Chen Zhi silently thought to himself. As a pitiful villain character, we must hurry up. At this moment. Madam, we haven't had that for a long time. Which one is that? That's it. Isn't that good? What's wrong? I asked the doctor, and as long as the child's condition inside stabilizes after a month, it's completely fine. Then let's rely on my husband. Chen Zhi's ear suddenly heard a series of conversations. What? Chen Zhi's hair stood on end in an instant. I'll knock on the mud tiles. Do you want to forcibly break into a private residence without my consent? Feeling his house slowly tilting backwards, a rough big hand touched it. Chen Zhi quickly raised his small hand and quickly hit a set of military-style punches on his stomach. In a flickering candlelight wing room. Ying Shuang looked at her bulging belly one after another, and her eyes widened in shock. What's wrong with the child? Chen Tianliang was also taken aback at the sight and continued to laugh. Ha ha ha, the child must be welcoming me. After speaking, Chen Tianliang reached out his hand and lightly slapped his belly, saying with a smile, "Oh my child, please don't make a fuss for now. When Dad is finished, he will tell you the story of the golden axe, silver axe, and iron axe. I'm talking about your uncle." Chen Zhi was dizzy from the slap, rolling back and forth with the continuous fluctuation of amniotic fluid. You have the guts not to let me come out alive. Chen Zhi gritted his teeth and firmly remembered today's slap in his notebook. Fortunately, the early meeting between father and son did not happen in the end. Chen Tianliang, who felt unwilling, was kicked and kicked out by Ying Shuangshuang. Immediately, Ying Shuangshuang sang a nursery rhyme to Chen Zhi. After seeing Chen Zhi calm down, she also began to practice. And Chen Zhi, after seeing that cheap old man go out, fell into a state of cultivation early on. Spring has passed and autumn has arrived. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months had passed. In these 2 months, Chen Zhi's foundation has been incredibly solid, and most of the muscle and vein blockages in his body have been cleared. It won't be long before the tendons and meridians are completely opened up, forming a congenital mixed-element Tao body. In addition, Chen Zhi's spiritual power has also become much stronger, and he can even go out and see things within 10 meters. Speaking of which, the reason why he was able to make rapid progress is also related to the continuous supplementation of natural materials and treasures by Ying Shuangshuang. As long as he practices and grows, he will absorb a large amount of qi and blood energy from Ying Shuang's body. If it weren't for Chen Tianliang's frequent outings, entering dangerous areas, and even daring to plunder and bring a large amount of natural materials and treasures to Ying Shuang, he would definitely not have grown so quickly. He often sees Chen Tianliang returning from injury, with a tired face. He couldn't help but be slightly moved by this. Although his own cheap father is seen as a despicable person by outsiders, he is really not bad at his wife and children. This day, Chen Zhi felt the sound of arguments coming from outside, and his heart suddenly moved. His mental energy was released. In an antique hall, Chen Tianliang sat on a sandalwood chair with a golden sword, holding a red divine grass in his hand. Across from Chen Tianliang stood an elegant middle-aged man wearing a long shirt and a hair crown. "Third brother, what do you mean by snatching the fire god grass from me?" said the elegant middle-aged man, suppressing his anger. Chen Tianliang squinted his eyes and glanced at him, saying, "Fourth brother, we are all from our own family. Don't be so stingy. Besides, I said it was a loan. Will it be returned to you sooner or later? You borrowed me 23 times, which time did you pay me back?" The elegant middle-aged man exclaimed in sorrow. Chen Tianliang was taken aback and continued with a dry smile, "Fourth brother, you have a really good memory." The elegant middle-aged man let out a cold snort in his nose, then thought for a moment and sighed. He earnestly advised, "Third brother, at least our Chen family is also an immortal family, and we are even stronger in the realm of Zhenwu. Why should we be so disrespectful? Give me the fire god grass back, don't let me misjudge you and think you are a scoundrel." Pop. Chen Tianliang suddenly patted the armrest of the table. The elegant middle-aged man was startled. Chen Tianliang nodded solemnly and said, "Fourth brother, to be honest, you have such a keen eye for people." The elegant middle-aged man suddenly became angry and held back for a while before spitting out 3 words. "You're shameless." At the next moment, the elegant middle-aged man turned around and brushed his sleeves before leaving. From afar, he could still hear his cursing voice. "Chen Tianliang, I will lend you things in the future. I'll write Chen Tianqian's name upside down." Looking at Chen Tianqian's distant figure, Chen Tianliang muttered to himself. "What did you say? Are you writing it upside down? Isn't it still Chen Tianqian?" Shaking his head, Chen Tianliang handed the fire god grass in his hand to Ying Shuangshuang as if offering a treasure, and his face was filled with smiles as he said, "Here, daughter.In.Law, this is a good thing that has great benefits for warming up the body and soul. You should keep it as soon as possible." Upon seeing this, Ying Shuangshuang felt helpless and couldn't help but laugh and cry, saying, "Heavenly goodness, there's no need for this. You've been causing a lot of anger and resentment outside lately, and many people have objections to you. If this continues, it will eventually lead to trouble." Causing trouble. If the family hadn't been so biased and given all the good things to Chen Zhixing, why should I be here? Chen Tianliang said with a cold expression. Heavenly goodness, don't say such words. The child of Zhao Sheng was born with an ancient physique and had the appearance of an ancient sage. In the future, he may be able to enter the holy realm and lead our Chen family to repeat the glory of the real eternal family in the past. There should be some tilt in family resources, so don't be resentful. Ing Shuangshuang quickly spoke up. Well, I know it's important, Chen Tianliang nodded disapprovingly and said, they should. So, I should rely on my own means to find some food for my wife and children, and naturally it should be. After a pause, Chen Tianliang changed his tone and said. By the way, I heard that there is an ancient secret realm about to open in the South China Sea, which contains many heavenly and earthly treasures. I plan to go to that ancient secret realm and try to prepare some foundation-building artifacts for our child after birth. Upon hearing these words, Chen Zhi, who was originally soaking in amniotic fluid to watch the excitement, suddenly changed his face. The ancient secret realm of the South China Sea. That place is not a paradise at all, but a place of ancient great calamity, has opened up. Chapter 3. Goodbye Mom, I'm going on a long voyage tonight. You are listening at novel.audio. Chen Zhi's mind sank. If he remembers correctly, the so-called ancient secret realm is actually a place of great ancient ferocity. In the game plot of The Xing, why did the tragic cannon fodder Chen Zhixing become sinister? His temperament became rebellious and violent, his psychology distorted, and he eventually offended the protagonist and was killed by him. A large part of the reason is related to this so-called ancient secret realm. Because Chen Tianliang went to the ancient land of great evil and was then ambushed by someone in that land, causing damage to the foundation of the great Tao. His cultivation fell from the true realm to the divine realm, and his path of cultivation in this life was completely cut off, causing a series of chain reactions. The Chen family is not considered illegitimate, but has 4 legitimate descendants. Although Chen Tianliang is not the eldest son, he is the 3rd wife. But due to Chen Tianliang's strong strength and exceptional combat capabilities, he still holds a position among the 4 sons of the family. As a result, Chen Tianliang's cultivation plummeted and he was unable to continue his cultivation, causing his status within the family to decline again and again. However, Chen Zhixing, who had extremely low cultivation talents, naturally did not receive much attention during his childhood and was subjected to a lot of bullying. Chen Tianliang may seem shameless and skinny on the outside, but in fact, he is extremely proud by nature. How could he accept such a blow? So he placed all his hopes on Chen Zhixing. When Chen Zhixing was a child, he didn't work hard in his cultivation, so he would either hit or scold him, either blaming him for being too foolish or mocking himself for giving birth to a useless person. It is precisely this combination of reasons that led to Chen Zhixing's angry attitude of, since you think I am useless, then I will show you useless, gradually falling into depravity, and ultimately causing a fatal accident for himself. So the reason why Chen Tianliang went to that place of great calamity back then was for me. Chen Zhi sighed in his heart. Everything in the world has cause and effect. He didn't expect that the ultimate consequence would have been planted when he was still a fetus. No, we have to stop all of this. A sense of urgency surged in Chen Zhi's heart. Play and make fun of yourself, don't make fun of your own father. Chen Tianliang is at least his biological father in this lifetime, and he cannot watch him walk towards the end. Just as Chen Zhi was pondering. Tianliang, is the ancient secret realm dangerous or not? I don't know, that's a new secret realm, and no one knows what's going on inside. Oh my goodness, in my opinion, why don't we just forget about it? The child will be born in a few months, and I don't want you to risk yourself at this time. Ha ha ha, don't worry, daughter.In.Law. The opening of that secret realm will also happen in half a year, and the child will definitely be born by then. Moreover, this time when we go to that secret realm, there are also a few old friends and acquaintances of mine, and we are confident. Okay, I'll support you whatever you do. Upon hearing his parents' conversation, Chen Zhi breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. It's okay. There is still half a year left, and there is still time to rewrite everything. In the blink of an eye, another 3 months have passed. Chen Zhi has been in her mother's womb for 8 months. At this moment, Chen Zhi's hands, feet have completely grown, and even a black patch of fetal hair has appeared on his head. Under the indoctrination of various natural resources and treasures by Chen Tianliang, Chen Zhi developed very well, with thick black hair, thick and strong bones, and a strong and powerful heartbeat. His spiritual strength even reached a point of being exposed for 50 meters. At this moment, I saw myself in Xuangshuang's bulging belly. Little Chen sat with her knees crossed, her eyes tightly closed. A large amount of spiritual energy is absorbed by him through the umbilical cord. As Chen Zhi operated the congenital mixed Yuan Dao Jing, this spiritual energy immediately moved around the heavens and rushed towards the Tongtian acupoint above his head. That's the last blockage of the acupoints in his body. As long as this blockage is cleared, he will obtain the innate mixed element Dao body. From now on, there will be no dust or dirt, and the path of cultivation will be smooth sailing without any barriers. Puff. Only a muffled sound was heard, and the last blockage in the Tongtian acupoint was unobstructed. Ding. You have cleared all the blockages in your body and obtained the congenital mixed Yuan Avenue body. Ding. All the spiritual energy in your body will be transformed into the power of heaven and earth mixed elements. A system prompt sound rang in Chen Zhi's mind. Chen Zhi could clearly feel that he was incredibly close to heaven and earth at this moment. As if he had become the darling of heaven and earth, if it weren't for the obstruction of Xuangshuang, countless spiritual energies from heaven and earth would have rushed into his body. In addition, the spiritual energy he accumulated in the elixir field quickly transformed into a more powerful innate hybrid power. At this moment, Chen Zhi had a clear understanding in his heart. If he wants, he can even burst out now. Bursting out of her belly, that's too scary. She must be treated as a demon fetus. Chen Zhi quickly shook his head. It was only 2 months before he was born, so there was no rush for this moment. 2 months later. Chen Zhi woke up from a deep sleep with a premonition when he heard the noise outside. I'm finally going out. Chen Zhi touched his small house and felt inexplicably reluctant. He couldn't help but silently sing in his heart, "Goodbye Mom, I'm going on a long voyage tonight. Don't worry about me, I have oars of happiness and wisdom." After singing a song, Chen Zhi rolled over, selected the fetal position, and charged forward with all his might. With a quack, Chen Zhi left his small home. Then, someone picked off his heavy luggage with scissors. 7 pounds and 9 taels. Male doll. Before he could feel comfortable, he was lifted up by someone and patted the bottom board a few times. A urging sound sounded. Cry. Cry quickly. Chen Zhi had no choice but to cooperate with their performance and opened his mouth, crying loudly. "Madam, please take a look. The child has a loud voice and looks so beautiful." The midwife who delivered the baby carried Chen Zhi to the bedside. Chen Zhi also opened his eyes to look. I saw a gentle woman with a pale face and fine beads of sweat on her forehead, looking at him with a gentle expression on her face. This is her mother for this lifetime. Inexplicably, smelling the scent of his mother, Chen Zhi felt a warm and reassuring feeling in his heart. However, he had not yet familiarized himself with the scent on his mother's body. Jie jie jie. Let me take a look. Accompanied by a heroic burst of laughter, Chen Zhi saw a burly middle-aged man with a rough face, shining in his eyes, constantly rubbing his hands, and walking towards him with a sneaky look on his face. Chen Tianliang picked up Chen Zhi, glanced at him, and then laughed. "He looks like me with a nose and eyes." Chen Zhi gave him a sidelong glance. Good guy, other people's children don't have noses or eyes, do they? Haha, what a big boy. Dad will tell you the story of the golden axe, silver axe, and iron axe tonight, isn't it good? Not waiting for Chen Tianliang to finish speaking. Chen Ji slowly raised his small hand and then took aim. With a loud bang, Chen Ji hit Chen Tianliang's face with his small hand. Well, now the idea is clear. I originally wrote about it later, but it seems that many friends are struggling with fetal issues. As a more serious person, I will come back to say a few words. My child was born on March 19 this year, and I participated in all the prenatal examinations. I should have a good understanding of the development and growth of the fetus. Generally speaking, the fetus will have slight fetal movements at 2 to 3 months, which can be felt. By the 24th week, which is the 6th month, the first 4-dimensional orthodontic examination will show that the child's bones, limbs, and facial features are clearly visible. This examination is also used to determine whether the child has any deformities. From the 28th to the 30th week, which is 7 months old, the second 4-dimensional orthodontic examination will be conducted. At this point, the fetus's nails, hair, bones, and so on are fully developed and mature. At around this time, the child's appearance is the same as when they were born. When I write about the protagonist's 8th month, he ate a lot of natural resources and treasures, practiced Taoism, and had strong bones and thick black hair. May I ask, what is the problem? Moreover, the protagonist started practicing from the mother's womb, which is somewhat unusual and not very normal. May I ask, what is the problem? Also, writing a book is not about popularizing science, and I won't delve into many things. If I have to look at it with a critical eye, then everything is wrong. Writing a book is like making friends, focusing more on strengths and less on weaknesses. Otherwise, there are too many things to be picky about. If I have explained it this way and still insist on raising objections, then what you said is all right. Finally, I apologize for any inconvenience caused to everyone's normal reading. Wishing everyone a happy day. N.N. Chapter 4. Born Holy, Carrying the King's Map, Chen's Hidden Dragon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chen Tianliang was stunned for a moment and touched his face with a hint of dullness. Did this little guy give him a big pussy? The midwife beside her had sharp eyes and quickly laughed and shouted, Mr. Chen. This is the spring breeze brushing against your face, a sign of good fortune. Chen Tianliang was even more stunned and said with some suspicion, is there still this statement? Pop. Chen Ji raised his small hand and hit the other side of Chen Tianliang's face again. This time, he didn't mean to. Pure is a physiological response that cannot help but stretch the limbs. Chen Tianliang looked at the midwife with some dissatisfaction and said, so what is this? The midwife also didn't expect this situation, her eyes rolled, and she laughed and sang again. 2 strands of spring breeze brushing against my face, people are more red than peach blossoms. Chen Sanyi, this is even more auspicious. Chen Ji couldn't help but be a bit stunned as he listened to the conversation. Is this okay too? Isn't this called high emotional intelligence speaking, 2 words that warm you up all day? 1 word. Absolutely. Chen Tianliang shook his head when he saw the situation, and naturally wouldn't argue with the newborn child about these things. Instead, he smiled and said, Wife, let's give our child a name. Shuang gently replied, you are the father of the child, come and take it. Okay, Chen Tianliang nodded obediently. He began to seriously contemplate the name, sometimes frowning and pondering, sometimes pacing back and forth. He is really taking it very seriously. Chen Ji couldn't help feeling nervous when he saw the situation. This name is related to whether he is the villainous character Chen Zhixing or not. Although he is very certain in his heart, what if there is a miracle? After a moment. I saw Chen Tianliang stop in his tracks, and his eyes lit up and he said. Chen Daming. Wife, how about we call our child Chen Daming? He will be big and fierce in the future. When others hear this name, they know it's not easy to mess with. Chen Tianliang looked at Shuang with a proud expression on his face. Chen Ji. He suddenly felt that calling Chen Zhixing was also quite good. Even if killed by the protagonist in the future, it would be better than dying in a foreign society. Shuang stroked her forehead and couldn't help but laugh and cry, saying, Heavenly goodness, if you choose this name, your child will be laughed at in the future. After a pause, Shuang pondered and said. A while ago, the Confucian sage preached to the world and mentioned a term called unity of knowledge and action, which roughly refers to one's own behavior. To live up to one's conscience, it is better to call it Chen Zhixing than to be a child. Chen Tianliang is not very satisfied. He knows what to do but doesn't know what to do. There is no such thing as a big bang coming. But when he saw the midwives and maids around him, they all looked like they wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. He also realized something and could only nod, saying, then let's call it Zhixing. Chen Ji sighed in his heart upon seeing this, and indeed, fate cannot be changed. The script he received was the tragic villain Chen Zhixing. In the blink of an eye. Another month has passed. During this month, Chen Ji, or rather Chen Zhixing, who had completely accepted his identity, did not show much abnormality. Just like an ordinary newborn, he falls asleep every day except for drinking growth fluid. Only when his mother Shuang and father Chen Tianliang talked about cultivation, he quietly stood up and listened, trying to collect knowledge of cultivation. He wants to create a method. The innate mixed yuan Dao Jing is a technique for practicing the power of heaven and earth mixed yuan. In addition, he also needs a cultivation technique to be used for cultivation. The path of cultivation is divided into treasure body, nourishing spirit, transforming void, enlightenment, divine wandering, true self, nirvana, ultimate peak, and the last great eternal life. At this moment, Chen Zhixing's state is very strange. Firstly, this world believes that practice is like a sea of suffering, and the physical body is a valve boat for practicing in the sea of suffering. The physical body is the foundation for all things to bear weight. Therefore, the first realm of treasure body realm refers to the ultimate refinement of the physical body, where the muscles and bones contain precious light and open up the treasures of the human body. The second realm is the state of nourishing the mind, where after the physical body is perfected, spiritual energy begins to accumulate inside, transform into divine thoughts, connect with heaven and earth, and gain great power. Chen Zhixing did not cultivate his physical body, but his spiritual power was exceptionally strong, and now he can even unleash 100 meters. This is clearly a means that can only be found in the realm of nourishing the mind. We need to find a cultivation method as soon as possible as a reference for creating the method, and get on the right track. Chen Zhixing made up his mind. At the full level of comprehension, the method of cultivation is not difficult, and he even has a faint expression. On this day, Chen Zhixing was held in Shuang's arms, pretending to be sleeping, but in fact, he was contemplating the creation of the Dharma. Chen Tianliang was beside him, tirelessly expressing his father's love and telling the story of the golden axe, silver axe, and iron axe. At this moment, a servant hurriedly rushed in. Third master, madam. The clan leader has brought the eldest master and them over. Upon hearing these words, Chen Tianliang's eyes narrowed and his storytelling abruptly came to an end. His face gradually darkened. That guy Chen Tianxiong has always climbed the 3 treasures hall for nothing. Chen Tianliang was pondering. There was already a burst of laughter coming from outside. Third brother, why didn't anyone know that I would hear such a big news about our Chen family's recruitment? As the words fell, 3 figures came together. Chen Zhixing also raised his eyes and looked around. I saw that the person in charge was a tall and burly old man, with white hair all over his head and a majestic expression between his eyebrows. At first glance, it was clear that he was a powerful figure. This person is undoubtedly the current head of the Chen family, Chen Daoyan. It is also one of the few Nirvana realm powers in the current Zhangxuan realm. Afterwards, follow the two people. One person is about 50 years old, with a dragon and tiger gait, a square face, and sideburns cut like knives, similar to Chen Daoyan by 7 or 8 points. This person is Chen Tianxiong, the eldest son of the Chen family. He is also the most powerful second-generation son among the 4 houses. The last person is a child about 3 or 4 years old. Although he is young, there is a calmness on his face that does not belong to that age. His figure is upright, his gaze is calm and composed, and he has a divine beauty hidden in his heart. Master. Big brother. Chen Tianliang and Ning Shuangshuang stood up at the same time and respectfully saluted the two of them. The Chen family has a strict hierarchy, with the eldest being the most respected among the 4 rooms. Even if Chen Tianliang had any dissatisfaction with this big brother, he had to bow down and bow obediently when we met. Chen Daoyan nodded lightly, as a gesture of gratitude. But Chen Tianxiong smiled slightly and said, Tianliang, I heard that you have done a lot of evil things outside recently, seizing other people's natural resources and treasures everywhere. Is there such a thing? Chen Tianliang narrowed his eyes and said, Big brother, are you here to ask for forgiveness? Chen Tianxiong shook his head and said with a smile, it's not appropriate to ask for forgiveness. It's just that your behavior makes it easy for you to fall into someone else's mouth and say that our Chen family is at least an immortal family that has lived in a large habitat before. Now, we can't even bring out a few natural treasures. After a pause, Chen Tianxiong asked in response, isn't this making us the laughing stock of the Chen family? It's leaving our Chen ancestors with no face. Upon hearing these words, Chen Tianliang remained silent. Ning Shuangshuang's face had slightly changed and she forced a smile, saying, Big brother, are you speaking too seriously? Is it too heavy? Chen Tianxiong did not answer, but his gaze remained fixed on Chen Tianliang and he smiled faintly, saying, Tianliang, is it okay for your family to be run by someone with a different surname now? Upon hearing these words, Ning Shuangshuang's words paused. Obviously, what Chen Tianxiong meant was clearly that she had no right to intervene in their Chen family affairs. Chen Tianliang glanced at Chen Daoyan who was silent beside him, then gritted his teeth and squeezed a smile on his face, saying, Big brother's lesson is correct, but now all the heavenly materials and earthly treasures within the clan are kept by your room. If I have heavenly materials and earthly treasures, why go out and compete for them? You don't know why you asked me for it. Chen Tianxiong said lightly. I found it, you're not within the clan. So you don't know how to find the servant in charge of Tian Kai and Dibao to take it. I also looked for it, but the servant said, nowadays, all the heavenly and earthly treasures are used for Zhaosheng. Let me figure out a way for myself. So, you wouldn't ask the homeowner to advocate without authorization. Chen Tianxiong said calmly, with no emotion on his face. Chen Tianliang still wants to speak up. Chen Daoyan frowned and interrupted, all right, it's just natural resources and treasures, there's no need to dwell too much on it. After a pause, Chen Daoyan glanced at the calm and indifferent young child beside him and said in a deep voice. Zhaosheng is naturally divine, carrying the king's map, and he is the hidden dragon of our Chen family. This matter is of great significance to our Chen family's long-term fortune, and even determines whether we can have another great immortal. The pouring of resources within the clan is no less reasonable. At this point, Chen Daoyan's gaze continued to look at Chen Zhixing in Ning Shuangshuang's arms, and the conversation changed. Come, let me see how talented this child is. The release of the new book requires the full support of all the experts. The author is responsible for making efforts to update and write a good story, and the rest will be given to everyone. Firstly, rest assured that this book will never be a eunuch and will continue to be written. You can invest and watch it with confidence. Let me update you. The new book will be available at 6 p.m. and midnight every day, with stable and punctual updates. After being listed, it will experience daily updates. Then, during the new book period, following up on reading is really important, as it affects the author's overall performance of the book. So, kneel down and beg everyone not to raise books during the new book period, and to keep up with updates every day. Thank you very much. Oars. Bang bang bang. Chapter 5. No more equipment, Showdown, play big. You are listening at novel full.audio. Come, let me see how talented this child is. Chen Daoyan's words fell short. This Chen Tianliang and his wife looked at each other with some struggle on their faces. Today's talent-based bone testing will determine the child's status within the family as soon as it begins. It even determines the status of their house within the family. If the child has a good foundation, that's all, there will naturally be various resources pouring in. If it is good enough to a certain extent, it can even be like Chen Tianxiong's room, where the father and son are expensive and take off in place. And if it's not good, Chen Zhixing was destined to have no status within the family in the future. In other words, that's even if the dog doesn't even look at you. This is no different from affecting Chen Zhixing's childhood. Master, Zhixing has just reached the full moon. I think it's too early to test his talent, isn't it? Chen Tianliang took a deep breath in his airway. For Chen Zhixing, he currently doesn't have much demand. He only wants his own child to have a happy childhood every day. Confused. Chen Daoyan frowned and said, if you have good talent for knowledge and action, don't you test the roots of your talent and let it grow freely? Isn't it a waste of time and dust for the pearl? You should know that along the way of cultivation, one step can lead to a lifetime of happiness. How can we waste time? Chen Tianxiong, who was standing beside him, interjected with a smile and agreed, the head of the family is right. Look at my Changsheng, who was born with a vision, tested his talent in bones, and then received a flood of resources within the clan. Now, his cultivation is going smoothly. After a pause, Chen Tianxiong changed his tone and said with a smile, could it be that the third brother already knew that your child's talent was not good, so he resisted in every way? It's okay, the first lesson for us as parents is to learn to accept our child's ordinariness. After all, not everyone can be like my family's Zhaosheng. What did the saying say? Yes, excellence is only a minority, mediocrity is the norm. Wait for him to finish speaking. Don't say a few words. As the eldest son of a long family, he only knows how to outdo his brothers of the same lineage. How can he become a great tool? Chen Daoyan gave Chen Tianxiong a cold glance, causing his words to pause. He stuttered and opened his mouth, hesitating several times before speaking. He wants to explain a few more sentences. Chen Daoyan ignored him no longer and turned to look at Chen Zhixing in his swaddling clothes. His face softened and he said, you don't have to worry too much. No matter what his talent is, this child is from my Chen family, flowing with the blood of my Chen family. Even if we take 10,000 steps back, even if he can't practice, our family leader won't let him live a poor life, ensuring his wealth and prosperity throughout his life. Having already talked about it, Chen Tianliang and Ing Shuangshuang naturally cannot agree again. Chen Zhixing, who was sleeping in swaddling clothes, calmly listened to the conversation between the two of them. These people, on the other hand, have no significant deviation from the character designs in previous games. Based on the plot of the previous life's great practice. In fact, Chen Daoyan, the head of the family, appears to be difficult to get close to on the surface. In fact, this person is straightforward in his actions. This person is not good or bad, he can only be said to be a qualified head of the family, regardless of what he says or does, it is all for the sake of the family. And indeed, as this person said. In the game, Great Practice, Chen Zhixing did indeed lead a fairly good life of wealth and prosperity without any further cultivation. Even at the end, Chen Zhixing was killed, and the head of the family, Chen Daoyan, had personally gone to avenge him. As a result, nature still couldn't resist the protagonist's inherent aura and died at the protagonist's hands. As for Chen Tianxiong and Chen Zhaoxing, Chen Zhixing's gaze turned cold. In the game plot, he remembers very clearly how Chen Tianliang and his family were bullied and ridiculed by Chen Tianxiong's family after they were deposed. Chen Zhixing's blackening and the tragic ending in the end. A large part of the reason comes from the oppression of Chen Tianxiong's family. This made Chen Zhixing suddenly change his original decision in his heart. Originally, he was thinking of silently developing like some internet protagonists in his past life. Even if he was bullied, he would spit on himself and pretend to be indifferent. Only occasionally come out to pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger without revealing one's identity. Until the end, my cultivation was completely completed, and I was granted a divine title in World War I. Then, in the face of various emotions from others such as tiger body shaking, full of excitement, disbelief, shock on the face, gasping for breath, how could it be this useless person, my heart flew with joy. These tricks, as an old reader in his past life, are simply familiar to him. 3 words. Monarching. But Chen Zhixing suddenly felt. In such a place where talent is needed to compete for resources. Despite having an incredible talent, they hide and endure hardship. Haha. You can eat delicacies from the mountains and seas, and have some leftovers that others don't want. And then he blames others for being blind and having a delusional appearance, even causing his parents to be looked down upon, which is really quite foolish. So, he decided. Hey, stop pretending, I'll have a showdown. Hey buddy, I'm going to go straight ahead and play big. Just as Chen Zhixing was pondering, Chen Daoyan flipped his right hand and placed an ancient jade pendant with 10 ancient patterns on Chen Zhixing's forehead. This is a simple test stone that can detect how talented the root bone is. As for the detection method, it is also very simple, which is to detect how many acupoints are blocked inside. The less blockage, the higher the talent. The less blockage, the faster the cultivation speed and higher the achievement in the future. Puff. A dark yellow mist of light suddenly flowed into Chen Zhixing's body, following his eyebrows. Seeing this scene, Chen Tianliang and his wife immediately became nervous. It's not an exaggeration to say it's the moment of life and death now. Sun smack, fight for some anger. Air SMA, dad's wealth and status depend on you. Chen Tianliang's palms were sweating, and his face wore a suppressed and ferocious expression. Ying Shuang closed her eyes, clasped her hands together, and silently prayed in her heart. God, please bless my family with knowledge and action. I don't want to have a perfect talent for knowledge and action, I just want my talent for knowledge and action not to be too poor, to have a happy childhood. Chen Tianxiong beside him looked relaxed. Chen Zhixing's talent is poor, so he naturally enjoys it and can take the opportunity to stomp on Chen Tianliang's house. As for Chen Zhixing's innate talent, so what? Can it be better than not being able to become a self-proclaimed sage? The young child Chen Zhaoxing beside him had a slight curiosity on his small face. He also really wants to take a look. What is the talent of a child who is the arch-nemesis of their own father? Everyone has different thoughts. Shoo. I saw 10 dim long lines testing the ancient jade, one of which slowly lit up. It's done. Chen Daoyan nodded calmly. Chen Tianliang and Ying Shuang breathed a slight sigh of relief. This represents that at least 10% of the acupoints in Chen Zhixing's body are blocked. Although this has extremely poor talent, it is better than some individuals who are naturally disabled and unable to cultivate. My own child, I can practice in the future. Not waiting for everyone to come to their senses. Snicker. On the test jade, 2 long lines suddenly lit up again. 30%, with a lowly posture. Chen Daoyan slightly lowered his jaw. 30% of acupoints blocked open. This is the physique of the vast majority of cultivators in the entire cultivation world. This also means that Chen Zhixing has reached the qualified line. Chen Tianliang and Ning Shuangshuang glanced at each other and couldn't help but completely let go of the heavy stone in their hearts. Their children are satisfied that 30% of acupoints can be blocked and opened. 30% of acupoints are blocked and opened. Chen Zhixing's future achievements will not be too low with the full help of their husband and wife. Third brother, it's only 30%, that's enough. My Zhao Sheng has connected 90% of the ancient sages' bodies, Chen Tianxiong chuckled as he saw this. Chen Zhixing, who was in his infancy, nodded in agreement. Yeah. It's agreed to play big. Only 30%, where is that? At the next moment, Chen Zhixing quietly operated the innate Hunyuan Avenue. Bang! Then test the ancient jade. A dazzling incandescent light suddenly exploded. Unable to sleep in the middle of the night, send a chapter in advance, then, kneel down and seek all kinds of support. Chapter 6. 9 Ancient Patterns. Destiny. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Article 4. Article 5. Article 6. In an instant, 3 ancient patterns grew again on that ancient jade. The dazzling light illuminated the entire hall with incandescence. Chen Daoyan raised his eyebrows and then a relieved expression surged on his face. 6 ancient patterns. This represents Chen Zhixing's talent, reaching the level of a middle-aged person. The character, Zhong, in the So. Called posture of a Chinese person does not mean average, but rather refers to the center of the backbone. A cultivator with the posture of a middle person may not be considered a heavenly pride, but regardless of being placed in any lineage or family, they are enough to be trained as elite children. Not to mention, the 6 ancient patterns are among the best in the posture of Chinese people. The 7 ancient patterns from Tianjiao are only 1 away. Haha, my son has 6 ancient patterns. Chen Tianliang couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ning Shuangshuang clenched her fists and looked a bit excited. In fact, the 6 ancient patterns are nothing. As the children of the eternal family, I have seen many of them. Not to mention Chen Tianliang, who is known for reading countless people, is a true martial arts powerhouse. But under the parent-child filter, they were extremely satisfied. It's just 6 ancient patterns, what's so strange? Chen Tianxiong couldn't help but sarcastically say. Pop. Chen Daoyan slapped Chen Tianxiong on the back of the head with a hint of resentment, saying, "Why is your mouth like a cotton crotch? You have to make a few comments about everything. Even if you don't have any pattern, you can still be the head of a family." Chen Tianxiong. My conscience, heaven and earth. If it weren't for Chen Tianliang's various attacks on me in the past and not treating me like a big brother, would I be like this? Compared to the various expressions of the crowd, only Chen Zhixing, who was only 3 years old, remained calm and composed throughout. Waiting for everyone to react. On that ancient jade. The 7th ancient pattern suddenly lit up. Do you have 7 ancient patterns? Chen Daoyan's face lit up with a slight smile, and he uttered the word good for the first time. 7 ancient patterns are quite difficult, and with the proper cultivation of the family in the future, they can also create a unique atmosphere. We, Zhaoxing, can have more helpers in the future. However, just as the 7th ancient pattern lit up, the 8th dim ancient pattern, shining once again. In an instant. Chen Daoyan's pupils contracted violently in an instant. 8 ancient patterns, already the posture of dragons and phoenixes. Among various aristocratic families, they are undoubtedly the most top-notch group. Chen Tianliang and Ning Shuangshuang, on the other hand, immediately burst into a strong expression of joy after a moment's hesitation. Jia, my child Chen Tianliang, has 8 ancient patterns. Chen Tianliang's cheeks suddenly turned red on both sides, feeling as if he was expressing his frustration and wishing to howl in the sky. 8 ancient patterns. This represents our own child. As long as there are not too many setbacks in the future, they will definitely achieve the realm of true self. What is more joyful in this world than a father witnessing his child's success with his own eyes? Immediately, he glanced out of the corner of his eye at Chen Tianxiong, whose expression was stiff beside him, and his heart was filled with joy. Tell you to oppress me with your son every day, right? Hurry up. The next moment, he suppressed his excitement and looked at Chen Zhixing, suddenly having a bolder idea. SMA, can you move forward a little bit? Move forward a little more. Dad's wealth depends on you. At this moment, Chen Daoyan was relieved and said with a smile, okay, good, good. One family has 2 proud days. Our Chen family has 2 Qilin sons, why not worry about prosperity? At this moment, Chen Daoyan's mind even thought of the scene of Chen Zhixing.Chen Zhixing soaring in the sky in the near future. However, everything is not over yet. Chen Zhixing agreed to play big games, but how could he stop here? Bang! The 9th ancient pattern suddenly shines brightly. A dazzling rainbow shot out from the ancient jade. This rainbow is like a surging river. But in the blink of an eye, horizontally cut off the sun and moon. Through heaven and earth. In an instant. The entire Chen family, countless people have sensed something, stopped their movements, and looked up at the dazzling rainbow rising from the sky. This is. Countless people slowly open their mouths. And inside the main hall. At the moment when the 9th ancient pattern lights up. Whether it was Chen Daoyan, Chen Tianxiong, or Chen Tianliang and his wife, their faces changed and they couldn't help but take a cold breath. My goodness, 9 ancient patterns. Ying Xuanshuang covered her mouth, her beautiful eyes filled with shock. 9 ancient patterns. Looking at the entire Changshuan world today, there are only a few who can have 9 ancient patterns. 9 ancient patterns, also known as the heavenly destiny one in the entire Changshuan realm. The meaning is that fate is within us, and we are uniquely blessed. For the darling of heaven and earth. My son Chen Tianliang has 9 ancient patterns. Chen Tianliang's pupils dilated and his expression became dull. He lowered his head in a daze and looked at Chen Zhixing, who seemed to be sleeping soundly in his swaddle, his head buzzing. He, Chen Tianliang, gave birth to a destined one. He wiped his eyes, as if he couldn't believe it. He had only been thinking in his heart before and had no hope at all. As a result, only 9 ancient patterns are there. How could it be? How could he have 9 ancient patterns? Is this ancient jade wrong? Chen Tianxiong exclaimed in surprise, his eyes suddenly turning to Chen Zhixing in his swaddling clothes, his face flushed. Upon hearing these words, Chen Tianliang, who was originally in a daze, immediately reacted and said in an unfriendly tone, what does you mean? Why, your son can have 9 ancient patterns, but my son can't. Chen Tianxiong still wants to speak up. That's enough. Chen Daoyan let out a low drink, his expression becoming incredibly solemn at some point. He first pinched the formula and waved it casually, immediately covering up all kinds of anomalies. Immediately. He lowered his head and looked at Chen Zhixing in his swaddling clothes, feeling far less calm than his face. He silently uttered 4 words. Heaven bless the Chen family. After Chen Zhaosheng. The Chen family has once again given birth to a person with 9 ancient patterns. Although it may not be as impressive as Chen Zhaosheng's 9 ancient patterns combined with the heavenly carrying king map, with just the 9 ancient patterns, future achievements are already limitless. Even if there is not a single chance, one can dye their fingers in the eternal life. No one can spread the news about today's situation, do you understand? Chen Daoyan took a deep breath, looked serious, and slowly spoke. Two nine ancient pattern masters were born at the same time. If this matter is spread, it will definitely cause a storm in the entire cultivation world. At that time, no one knows what will happen. After all, the Chen family is not without enemies. As enemies, no one would want to see the already dilapidated Chen family rise again. If it were only Chen Zhixing, who has 9 ancient patterns, those enemies might still be able to endure it. If the news of the birth of 2 ancient patterned masters in the Chen family spreads, it is feared that those enemies will unite in an instant and spare no effort to kill the Chen family. Time slowly passed by. In the main hall, everyone stared fixedly at the last dim ancient pattern on the test jade. Unfortunately, until waiting for about half a burning incense stick, the last ancient pattern did not light up again. Chen Daoyan will test the ancient jade and remove it from Chen Zhixing's forehead, with a slight disappointment flashing in his eyes. Unfortunately, there were no 10 ancient patterns in the end. But this disappointment disappeared in an instant. I'm actually greedy, Chen Daoyan couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. 10 ancient patterns, looking at the entire Changsheng world, from ancient times to the present, they are only a handful. And those people, almost all of them ended up as great immortals. How could it be so easy to appear? But Chen Tianliang and his wife looked at each other for some reason, but instead breathed a sigh of relief. If you are your own child, you are truly one of the legendary 10 ancient patterns. The 2 of them cannot be saved. Or even the entire Chen family cannot be preserved. That won't be fate, it will only be a huge trouble. I have been writing this chapter for a long time and it seems that it is not quite accurate, so I apologize for the delay in updating it. Then, with a pitiful expression, I asked for the first monthly pass for this book and the first reward. Ors. Chapter 7. I give you time to chase until you can't see from afar. You are listening at novel.full.audio. At this moment, the way everyone looked at Chen Zhixing changed. A 9 ancient pattern maker. Looking at the entire Changsheng world today, there are only a few of them. What should I do about this child Zhixing? I don't need to repeat it a second time, do I? Chen Daoyan spoke in a deep voice. Chen Tianliang nodded and then glanced sideways at Chen Tianxiong. Why are you looking at me like this? What good would it be for me to reveal that Zhixing is a 9 ancient pattern practitioner? Chen Tianxiong gave Chen Tianliang a displeased look. Alright, that's all for today's matter. Regarding the fact that Zhixing is a practitioner of the 9 ancient patterns, I will go and tell my ancestors. At the same time, I will also find a way to deceive and pass on the strange phenomena caused today. Tianliang, here is this token for you. In the future, you can take this token to the treasure pavilion to retrieve the natural materials and treasures that Zhixing, a child, needs for cultivation. Zhixing and Zhaoxing will enjoy equal treatment. Chen Daoyan reached out his hand with a loving smile on his face, touched Chen Zhixing's head, and finally said, "Child, grow up well, Grandpa will come and see you again in the future." The words fell. Chen Daoyan turned around and stepped forward, immediately shooting towards the forbidden area behind the Chen family's mountain. "Big brother, I won't keep you anymore." Chen Tianliang smiled and looked at Chen Tianxiong, making a gesture of invitation to the outside. Looking at Chen Tianliang's smug expression, Chen Tianxiong wished he could punch him. Third brother, a child's good talent only represents a high starting point, but how far and fast they can go in the end is not just determined by their talent. Chen Tianxiong took a deep breath and his expression gradually became indifferent. As the words fell, he turned around and left with the 3-year-old child Chen Zhaoxing beside him. And before leaving, Chen Zhaoxing remained silent and took a deep look at Chen Zhixing in his swaddling clothes. In the dark, he suddenly had a premonition. He will have an indescribable bond with the child in swaddling clothes in the future. After the 2 of them leave, the entire hall suddenly fell silent. Chen Tianliang, who had previously remained calm, suddenly turned around with an excited expression and looked at Chen Zhixing in his swaddling clothes with a lively expression on his face. "Oh, hello. Good smashing. My big one. You're giving Dad too much face this time. Ha ha ha." He hugged Chen Zhixing, pouted his mouth, squinted his eyes, and prepared to give him a wild kiss. "Dad really didn't hurt you in vain. Ha ha ha." Upon seeing this, Chen Zhixing suddenly felt a chill and quickly leaned back, lifting his little arm to block Chen Tianliang's bearded face. "As a father, the child is still young, don't scare the child." Ing Shuang pushed Chen Tianliang away, unable to laugh or cry. Okay, no kissing or not kissing. Dad rewards you tonight by telling you 10 stories about the golden axe, silver axe, and iron axe, ensuring that you can sleep well while listening." Chen Tianliang chuckled. Chen Zhixing's face turned black. From birth to now, for a whole month, he has listened to this story 90.8 times. This doesn't even count the number of times he was born. Okay, that's great. He silently wrote another note in his small notebook in his heart. When he gets old, we need to let him experience the feeling of putting golden axes, silver axes, and iron axes at his bedside every day. Well, by the way, it must be until he listens and vomits. Immediately. Chen Zhixing yawned, turned over and arched, ready to fall asleep. He is quite satisfied with today's result. He is naturally able to reveal 10 ancient patterns today. As early as in his mother's womb, he had already cultivated a congenital mixed-element Tao body, with all his muscles and acupoints blocked and already fully healed. But what does that mean? That will only bring endless trouble to oneself, and even to the entire Chen family. Some things require moderation before they have the power to protect themselves. At the same time, on a mountain road leaving Chen Tianliang's family. Humph, Chen Tianliang, that guy, I don't know what kind of luck he had, but he also gave birth to a child of the 9 ancient patterns. Chen Tianxiong walked with his hands down, his face full of anger. He lowered his head and glanced at Chen Zhaoxing beside him, feeling slightly better. Fortunately, my own son is also a practitioner of the 9 ancient patterns, and he also has an additional natural king image. Dad, what is the conflict between you and Uncle San? Why are you targeting him everywhere? Chen Zhaoxing said with some curiosity. My own father is not actually a person with small bellies and small intestines, and even on the contrary, in the entire cultivation world, countless people claim that he has the image of a powerful master who swallows mountains and rivers. Otherwise, he would not have secured the first position among the second generation of the Chen family now. But he couldn't understand why his father felt like he had changed his personality when he saw third uncle. All the city government and scheming, even the mentality of having a thunderous chest and a calm face, have disappeared completely. Upon hearing this, Chen Tianxiong opened his mouth and finally hesitated, saying, "Forget it, you're still young. There are some things I told you that you don't understand. I'll talk to you when you're older." After a pause, Chen Tianxiong continued with a slight smile. "Zhao Sheng, don't think too much about it. In my father's heart, you are still the most talented person. Your future achievements are destined to be limitless, and cannot be compared to Chen Zhixing's child. Can we compare? It's not up to you, Dad, to decide," Chen Zhaoxing suddenly spoke up. Chen Tianxiong was taken aback for a moment, then seemed to have thought of something. He quickly spoke up with concern, "Zhao Sheng, you don't need to be discouraged. Even if Chen Zhixing had 9 ancient patterns, he could only match you. But you have more natural king patterns than him. What does he compare to you?" Wait for him to finish speaking. Chen Zhaoxing shook his head and said calmly, "Dad, you misunderstood. I just feel that if someone rides on top of the dust and looks back, they can't even see an opponent. How boring would that be?" He laughed. "And if you could always have an opponent who is constantly chasing after you with all your heart and soul, wouldn't that be much more interesting?" Chen Zhixing paused in his footsteps and glanced back at Chen Tianliang's mansion on the mountain peak. With a calm and firm expression, he spoke. Dad, aren't you trying to suppress Uncle San's family? I'll help you do it. He withdrew his gaze and kept a sentence in his heart, not saying it. Brother, I'll give you time to catch up until you can't see from afar. I won't lose. Upon hearing this, Chen Tianxiong's pupils slightly contracted. He looked at Chen Zhixing with some hesitation. My child has grown up to be a bit scary. Time flies like a shuttle. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed by. Over the past 2 months, Chen Zhixing has developed extremely well, almost every day, with various natural resources and treasures being refined into growth fluids. Now, Chen Zhixing, who is 3 months old, has grown to over half a meter in length and is particularly likable due to his tiger head and brain. However, compared to physical development, the improvement in cultivation is more focused on Chen Zhi's behavior. The matter of creating the Dharma is only one final step away. I need to go through a lot of cultivation techniques and find one that serves as the main framework for my creation. As long as I succeed in creating the Dharma, I can officially start practicing. Moreover, besides that, my spiritual power is only used for external use, which is also too wasteful. It would be great if I could find a way to turn my spiritual power into an attack method. This kind of method is extremely rare, but as an eternal family, the Chen family will definitely have it in the library. Chen Zhixing lay on a rocking chair, his eyebrows constantly furrowing. But it's too troublesome to talk and communicate, even if there's something, I can't get it. No, we have to find a suitable opportunity to speak up. At the moment when Chen Zhi was contemplating his actions. Creak. The door was pushed open. Chen Tianliang walked in with a smile and shouted from afar. Good smashing. Did you learn to call yourself Dad today? Chapter 8. Father's Compassion and Son's Filial Piety. Boost. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Damn it, have you learned to call Dad today? Chen Tianliang walked over with a smile and reached out to pinch Chen Zhixing's small face. Pop. Shuang slapped Chen Tianliang in the hand and glared at him, saying, Don't keep pinching your child's face all day. If you grow up, it will leak water. And since your child is only 3 months old, how can you talk? Chen Tianliang withdrew his hand and said disapprovingly, That's someone else's child. Our child has 9 ancient patterns, not to mention being able to speak in 3 months. I don't think it's surprising that he can speak when he comes out of his mother's womb. After speaking, Chen Tianliang leaned down and looked at Chen Zhixing with a smile, saying, Come on, let's smash it. Let's shout, Daddy, and listen. Chen Zhixing glanced at him. Shout, don't be so stingy. Dad will teach you. Chen Tianliang opened his mouth and said slowly. Follow me to learn. Drip coconut Dad, Dad. Ah. Chen Zhixing nodded his head. Once again, Didi yeah Dad, Dad, hey. Right, Didi yeah wait. Chen Tianliang suddenly reacted and his eyes widened like copper bells, saying. Wife, he seems to be taking advantage of me. Shuang couldn't help but chuckle when she saw this, and gently picked up Chen Zhixing in her arms. She spoke softly. Xiao Zhixing, I am my mother. Can you call me mother? Chen Zhixing looked at Shuang, who had originally planned to take the opportunity to speak, and finally found an opportunity. At the next moment, Chen Zhixing spat out 2 words with a milky voice. Mother. In an instant. Shuang's whole body trembled like being struck by lightning. He started calling me mother. Zhixing started calling me mother. Shuang couldn't help but burst into tears of joy, laughing and crying. In this world, no one can feel the same surprise as a mother when she first hears a child call her mother. Upon seeing this, Chen Tianliang quickly leaned in and smiled, saying, "Come on, call out daddy." "Hey! What?" Chen Tianliang was dumbfounded and opened his mouth with a dull expression before finally falling silent. Shuang couldn't help but chuckle again and patiently asked, "Hey kid, what do you want to eat? Mom will make it for you, or do you want to go out and play?" Chen Zhixing spoke with a milky voice and said, "Geese want to read and see." As soon as the words were spoken, Chen Zhixing couldn't help but feel a bit confused. What's wrong with speaking on your own? Immediately, Chen Zhixing suddenly realized that it was related to the fact that his vocal cords had not yet fully matured. "Do you want to read and read?" Shuang hesitated for a moment and replied, "Zhixing, do you want to read and read?" Chen Zhixing nodded. Shuang was pleasantly surprised upon hearing this. "Is it necessary to read and read now? Rumor has it that those with extraordinary talents are born divine, and some can be born knowing them. I have seen them." Shuang sighed in her heart and said, "Zhixing, what type of book do you want to read?" Chen Zhixing said seriously with a small face, "The goose wants to see the illusion about cultivation." "A book on cultivation?" Shuang was slightly taken aback. Her own child is only so young, yet she already knows the word cultivation. She glanced at Chen Tianliang, who was dumbfounded next to her, and immediately shouted, "Daddy, didn't you hear me? My child wants to read books about cultivation." Chen Tianliang finally regained his senses and said, Okay, I'll go to the library to retrieve it." A few days later, Chen Zhixing first attempted to recognize characters, and with a rebellious understanding, he could complete the text in just half a day. Subsequently, it gradually manifested itself in front of Chen Tianliang and Shuang, creating a process of gradual acceptance. Chen Tianliang and Shuang were surprised, but they didn't find it too strange. Compared to Chen Zhixing, who was born with a divine image, this extraordinary feature of his own child is nothing. This day, Chen Zhixing sat alone on the rocking chair in the room, surrounded by piles of books. Ding! You watched True Yuan 76 Dharma, and, with an incredible understanding, directly integrated and connected it. Ding! You watched Swordsmanship and, with an incredible understanding, you have perfected it to the point of perfection. Ding! You watched the complete collection of true solutions to arrays, and, with an incredible understanding, you learned 10 formations. Ding! You watched Lingmu Immortal Travels, and with an incredible understanding, you are familiar with the map of the Zhongshuan realm. Ding! You watched The Annotations of the Medicine King's Valley, and with your rebellious understanding, you gained the foundation of alchemy. Cold warning sounds kept ringing in Chen Zhixing's mind. Chen Zhixing is very fast, and he can read a book almost every half a burning incense stick. In his eyes, there were countless great road runes flickering and spinning. At first glance, they looked like gods rather than humans. At this moment, he is like a sponge thrown into the ocean of knowledge, crazily absorbing a massive amount of knowledge. Kendo. Dandao. Formation. Too much, too much. His understanding of this world is rapidly increasing at an alarming rate. After a moment, Chen Zhixing put down the last book in his hand and let out a long breath of turbid air. This mystical realm is more vast and comprehensive than the world in the game, great practice. Chen Zhixing's eyes kept flickering. Perhaps it is because in his previous life, he only completed a single main storyline task while playing games, and he did not actually have a deep understanding of the entire game background. And after just flipping through multiple books, he can be considered to have a completely new understanding. The entire Zhongshuan realm is vast and boundless. There are 3 immortal lineages above, dominating the world and standing at the top of independent clouds. There are various ancient holy sites and immortal families standing side by side, governing the ups and downs of the world. In addition, Buddhism's Pure Land, Confucianism and Taoism, the Great Realm, Demon Cult, demon way, evil faction, and various sects are distributed throughout the entire Changsheng realm. Almost this world has everything that Chen Zhixing's traditional concept of a fantasy world should have. And their Chen family, residing in Ziwei Mountain, was once one of the immortal families. 5,000 years ago, Chen Xianfeng, the ancestor of the Chen family, entered the Dechang habitat, and the Chen family ascended to heaven and became a lifelong family. At that time, I was once proud and extremely brilliant. Just. With the disappearance of Chen Xianfeng, the ancestor of the Chen family, 3,000 years ago, news is hard to find. The Chen family naturally declined accordingly. Looking at the entire Chen family now, it is evident that the strongest one is the head of the Nirvana realm, Chen Daoyan. Not to mention the great habitat, it is still unknown whether there are any top-notch giants within the family. However, Chen Zhixing, who is familiar with the game plot, naturally understands that there is still a grandson of Chen Xianfeng living in the forbidden area of the Chen family's back mountain, who is a strong person who has reached the pinnacle. This person is also the ultimate anchor of the Chen family. He vividly remembers that in the main plot, after the death of the antagonist NPC Chen Zhixing, when the Chen family continued to die due to Chen Zhixing offending the protagonist, this unparalleled ancestor of the Chen family was born unexpectedly. As a result, the protagonist was favored by a saint from the immortal tradition. The saint helped the protagonist and requested the help of a top-notch ancestor from the immortal tradition. Surprisingly, she helped the protagonist and forcefully killed the ancestor of the Chen family at Ziwei Mountain. The Chen family became the backdrop for the rise of the protagonist, and from then on, it truly disintegrated and crumbled. We need to hurry up. Chen Zhixing's eyes constantly flashed with thoughts. If he sits idly by the time the plot reaches the point where he offends the protagonist, perhaps it's already too late. We must take advantage of the fact that the protagonist is not yet fully fledged and has not yet set foot with the immortal Taoist saint to kill him. In this way, whether it's his fate or the fate of his parents, only then can we rewrite it. In other words, I am actually racing against the protagonist who is still unknown where I am at this moment. Chen Zhixing's eyes flashed with a hint of enlightenment. Chapter 9. Understanding Against Heaven. The Bull Demonization Star Sutra. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Slight threads. A cool evening breeze blew past Ziwei Mountain. At this moment, the night is deep, but the Ziwei Mountain where the Chen family is located is still brightly lit. Chen Zhixing withdrew his thoughts and turned to look at the 5 books in front of him. The 100 Refinements Golden Body Classic, Zhou Tian Hua Xing Ju, Bull Demon Supporting Heaven Skill, Heart Sword Technique, Refining Divine Breath Method. These 5 books are the 5 cultivation techniques left behind by Chen Zhixing after the great waves washed away the sand. Among them, the first 3 cultivation methods are body refining techniques that can be practiced in the treasure body realm. The latter 2 martial arts are rare methods for cultivating spiritual power. These 5 martial arts are all good. If placed outside the cultivation world, it may be enough to stir up a bloody storm. Fortunately, I was born into an eternal family, and although my glory is no longer there, my foundation is still rich. Chen Zhixing sighed slightly. If he were not born into this eternal family, he would probably have spent countless years just collecting these few martial arts. However, perhaps due to too many choices, Chen Zhixing became somewhat indecisive. For example, in this 100 Refinements of the Golden Body Sutra, it emphasizes constantly refining the physical body, treating it as a magic weapon to continuously forge it. After this method is completed, one can obtain an immortal golden body, with a defense power that is unparalleled. However, Chen Zhixing is still young now. If he exercises his physical body too early, it can easily damage his foundation. Moreover, the Zhou Tian Hua Xing Ju emphasizes the power of attracting stars, infusing the body, and allowing one's 720 acupoints to contain a power of stars. Once this method is completed, it can shatter and tear the nebula with one's hand. According to the introduction, this method was weak in the early stage. Only by cultivating the power of the stars in 720 acupoints and forming a complete diagram of the heavens and stars in the body can it respond in advance and form horns, forming a true qualitative change. That's all for it. The most crucial thing is that the more one cultivates this method to the end, the more difficult it becomes. Even the founder of this method spent his entire life cultivating only 600 acupoints. What was the specific power of the celestial chart that week, and more was just the founder's imagination. As for the final body refining treasure technique, Niu Mo Bu Tian Gong, it is a pure cultivation method. This method has a total of 99 layers, and for each layer of cultivation, one can obtain the power of a bull demon. After the completion of the 90.9 layers, 90.9 bull demons are added to possess the power of the heavenly scripture, proving the way with their strength. These three methods of body cultivation have obvious advantages and disadvantages. How should we choose? Chen Zhixing frowned tightly, hesitating for a moment. After a moment, Chen Zhixing seemed to think of something, but suddenly he was taken aback and turned to smile, saying, "I'm quite impressed. I have a full level of intelligence. Why should I hesitate?" That's right. Only children make choices. And he wants all three of his martial arts. For a moment, Chen Zhixing had 100 connections, and looking at the two methods of cultivating spiritual power, he also had a decision in his heart. The next moment, Chen Zhixing slowly closed his eyes and began to comprehend the three methods of body cultivation, intending to learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses, and directly merge them into a brand new skill book. In the blink of an eye. A month's time passed quickly. During this month, Chen Zhixing not only cooperated with his parents every day and performed a scene of fatherly kindness and filial piety. Most of the time, he was contemplating these three body refining techniques. The difficulty of enlightenment is far greater than he thought. These three martial arts, each of which is a work of seizing the creation of heaven and earth, were created by the countless days and nights of previous generations who devoted their entire lives. However, Chen Zhixing wanted to forcibly merge the three martial arts into one, which was much more difficult than the innate mixed Yuan Dao Jing. This day, Chen Zhixing casually made an excuse, separated his parents, and was inside the house practicing martial arts. A cold reminder suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding! You have been practicing the 100 Refinements Golden Body Classic, Zhou Tian Hua Xing Ju, and Niu Mo Bu Tian Gong, for a month, and finally, with your rebellious understanding and hard work, you have combined these three techniques into one and created the Niu Mo Hua Xing Jing. The Bull Demon Transformation Star Classic. Inject the power of the surrounding stars into the body, and forge an immortal golden body. Among the 720 acupoints in the body, each acupoint can form a bull demon's power. It's done. Chen Zhixing's eyes suddenly opened, and a happy expression surged on his face. It took him a whole month to finally merge these three techniques into one. He nodded slightly as he looked at the introduction of the Bull Demonization Star Sutra. The newly created Bull Demonization Star Sutra preserves all the dazzling aspects of its original form, which is exactly Chen Zhixing's most ideal state. Taking a deep breath, Chen Zhixing sat cross-legged. In his mind, the Bull Demonization Star Sutra slowly opened the first page. The first acupoint, Lao Gong acupoint. Chen Zhixing silently recited, following the introduction of the Niu Mo Hua Xing Jing, and began to feel the world. In an instant, Chen Zhixing felt the field of vision in front of him, and began to fade and fade again. The tables and chairs disappeared, and the main hall disappeared. Even the entire Ziwei mountain disappeared from view. My thoughts became incredibly calm, and my brain became empty. He seemed to have transformed into a wisp of wind, a ray of light, and a mist between heaven and earth. Looking around, everything that catches the eye turns into nothingness. In his body, all 720 acupoints were opened, and endless spiritual energy actively rushed towards him. That is the power of the innate hybrid Tao body. Get close to heaven and earth, and influence nature. Gradually, stars appeared in the void before us. And then, these stars are getting more and more, more and more. Finally, these densely packed stars, in Chen Zhixing's eyes, turned into a magnificent and bright picture of the sky full of stars. Chen Zhixing stood under this starry sky painting, his eyes full of shock. Because the arrangement of this starry sky scroll corresponds to 720 acupoints on the human body. The next moment. On the painting scroll, the stars located at the position of Laogong cave suddenly burst into a brilliant light, forming a beam of light, shooting towards Chen Zhixing. Boom! In an instant, a force of stars rushed into his body, and immediately followed Chen Zhixing's movement of the Dharma. After wandering through his body for a week, it finally landed on the Laogong acupoint in his right palm with a loud bang. I don't know how long it has been. Chen Zhixing slowly opened his eyes. The vast expanse of starry sky in front of me has disappeared, replaced by familiar scenes of houses. He looked down at the center of his right palm and saw a star pattern gradually disappearing and hidden beneath his skin. He could feel incredibly clearly that at the position of his Laogong acupoint, the power of the stars had already filled about 1%. A trace of the power of the bull demon burst out from the Laogong acupoint and flowed throughout the body. In addition, a subtle golden divine radiance flashed across his flesh, muscles, and bones. That's forging an immortal golden body. My strength is increasing. Chen Zhixing's face lit up with a smile. When it comes to the first evaluation of the treasure body realm, it is 500 pounds on both arms. I don't know how much strength I can gain after completing the first acupoint. Chen Zhixing shook his head and stopped thinking too much. Just as he was planning to continue his cultivation. Erbong, we went down the hill to buy you bean paste cake and came back. A loud and full of vitality sounded from outside the door. Please find the collection and recommendation tickets, monthly tickets. The author is trying to find a way to get more popular. 10, Chapter 10. Reverse Illness, Visitors from the Heavenly Holy Palace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Creak. The door was opened. Chen Tianliang and Ing Shuangshuang came in with a box of bean paste cake. Chen Zhixing quickly transformed into a naive appearance, reaching forward and saying, "Mother, hold on. Hey, mother, come and hug me now." Ing Shuangshuang puts down his bean paste cake and holds Chen Zhixing in his arms. Looking at Chen Zhixing, who was pink in his arms, Ing Shuangshuang felt even happier as she looked at him. Come on, let daddy also give it a hug. Chen Tianliang just reached out his hand. Chen Zhixing yawned and said, "Mother, I'm going to bed now." Upon hearing these words, Ing Shuangshuang drove Chen Tianliang out. On the top of the moon. Ing Shuangshuang held Chen Zhixing in her arms and gently hummed nursery rhymes. After Chen Zhixing fell asleep, Ing Shuangshuang couldn't help but gently pinch her eyebrows and let out a sigh. Tianliang's illness is getting more and more serious, and it won't be long before he becomes the great master of the Eastern Xuanyu. But what should be done? Upon hearing these words, Chen Zhixing, who had pretended to be asleep, suddenly felt a slight movement in his mind. He almost forgot about this incident. Reverse disease. It refers to the occasional outburst of spiritual energy throughout the body, pushing against the muscles and meridians. At that time, Chen Tianliang, who was originally only in the realm of divine wandering, forcefully broke through the Zhenwu realm in the battle in order to compete for position in the competition and provide resources for the Chen family. As a result, although Chen Tianliang broke through the realm of true self, he injured the foundation of the Tao, and occasionally his spiritual energy would burst out in his body, thrusting against the meridians and dantian. Every time the disease is triggered, it is like billions of needles piercing at the same time, and the pain is indescribable. And the pain is nothing more than that. The most crucial thing is that every time the reverse disease is activated, it will cause serious damage to the foundation of the Tao, and will disperse all the accumulated spiritual energy. This also led to a whole decade passing, but Chen Tianliang's cultivation only broke through one realm, with only the true me double. Back then, Chen Tianxiong was originally suppressed by Chen Tianliang. Chen Tianliang is the first pride of the Chen family. It was precisely because of his illness that Chen Tianxiong overtook Chen Tianliang, and now he has secured the first position among the second generation of the Chen family. Perhaps now Chen Tianxiong is targeting Chen Tianliang because of the reasons why Chen Tianliang suppressed him in the past. Furthermore, Chen Zhixing had a bold guess in his heart. Perhaps Chen Tianliang suffered serious injuries in the secret realm of the South China Sea, leading to a sharp decline, and his path of cultivation has been cut off in this lifetime. And there was also a significant change in Chen Tianliang's temperament later on. It's all related to this reverse disease. Dad's illness will eventually become a ticking time bomb. We need to find a way to get rid of Dad's illness. Chen Zhixing silently pondered in his heart. Whether it's due to a father-son relationship or his current growth, he needs an umbrella. He can't even watch the reverse disease, constantly tormenting Chen Tianliang. The reverse disease is the fundamental injury of the Great Road, and it is extremely difficult to cure. Apart from the intervention of Dechang habitat, only the living Medicine King from the Medicine King Valley can cure it. But the Medicine King has been wandering around all year round and has long neglected trivial matters. It is extremely difficult to find him, and even if he does, it may be difficult to ask him to help refine pills for Chen Tianliang. However, there should be records in the Chen family's library about the suppression of reverse diseases. Perhaps I can start from these records and try to develop a temporary method to alleviate and suppress reverse diseases through my understanding of the heavens. Chen Zhixing pondered silently while looking up at his mother Shuang. Besides, we also need to find ways to improve our mother's cultivation level. Countless plans flooded into Chen Zhixing's mind. According to the timeline of great practice, perhaps it won't be long before the main plot begins. At that time, the Chen family will face a catastrophic disaster. Before this catastrophic disaster arrives, he not only needs to improve his own cultivation, but also needs to make his parents stronger. Only when Chen Tianliang and Shuang become stronger can they protect Chen Zhixing and have enough time to grow. My father's biggest problem is his illness, while my mother's biggest problem is actually practicing martial arts. The Hunyuan true scripture is so rigid that it reaches yang, which is not considered compatible with my mother. Chen Zhixing pondered these things and gradually fell into a deep sleep. The sun rises and the moon sets, and the stars move with each passing moment. A month's time flies by. During this month, Chen Zhixing spent most of his time practicing the Bull Demonization Star Sutra. With the blessing of the innate mixed element body, his cultivation speed is extremely fast. The power of the stars in the first acupoint, Gong acupoint, has reached nearly 30%. He made a slight attempt while there was no one around. A sandalwood table weighing 300 pounds was lifted by him with one hand. Chen Zhixing speculates that at this moment, he may have completely reached the level of treasure body cultivation. As for the power of the second layer of the treasure body, as long as he completes the refinement of the first acupoint, Gong acupoint, he should be able to enter the second layer of the treasure body naturally. Besides that, Chen Zhixing was exceptionally busy. He brought in a large number of books on alchemy and medical skills from Chen Tianliang, and through the records of reverse diseases, he continuously threaded and stitched these records together. With the blessing of his supernatural intelligence, he gradually found a method to temporarily suppress his illness. Perhaps it won't be long before he completely develops this method. In addition to finding ways to suppress the disease for Chen Tianliang, he began to merge heart-sword technique and refining divine breath technique into one, hoping to create a spiritual refining technique that combines the strengths of both families. However, due to the multitude and complexity of tasks, the process has slowed down significantly. Chen Zhixing also gained some insight into the cultivation techniques of Xing. However, Chen Zhixing needs a suitable timing to take it out. At the same time, the Chen family is located at the foot of Ziwei Mountain, not far away. Two figures were chatting quietly. A figure is an old man wearing a gray soap robe, white hair and beard, with a narrow and thin face. His eyes are clear and handsome. The other person is a young woman with excellent appearance and physique. This woman is wearing a purple palace dress with a slender waist that is tightly tied with a white ribbon. Her figure is curvy and perfectly curved. On his face, a thin veil was used to cover most of the face below his eyes. However, just looking at these autumn-like eyes, it can also be seen that this is a peerless beauty with bright eyes and white teeth, and a stunning appearance. Unfortunately, there was a hint of coldness between the woman's eyebrows, which added some distance to her and made her dare not look directly. Your Highness, this is the Chen family. At that time, the Chen family was also one of the leading immortal families in our eastern Xian domain. Its ancestor, Chen Xianfeng, participated in the creation and transformation of the martial arts, and his methods were unparalleled. However, as Chen Xianfeng evaporated from the mortal world, the Chen family's youth and Huang did not take over, and it could be considered as falling out of the ranks of the immortal family. The old man in the gray robe smiled slightly and continued. However, this time, the Chen family had a good fortune and even gave birth to a 9 ancient pattern figure named Chen Zhixing, who was born with a natural king pattern. The stunning woman nodded with a calm expression and spoke calmly, as an immortal tradition in the world, our heavenly holy palace has many talented individuals, but few can truly achieve great accomplishments in the end. Over the years, how many arrogant individuals have relied on their own talents to surpass others, but as a result, they have not practiced diligently and eventually disappeared from the crowd. What truly determines a person's achievement, in addition to talent, is also intelligence, perseverance, and so on. There are too many. Your Highness is right, so aren't we here to investigate Chen Zhixing? If Chen Zhixing is indeed extraordinary, it's not too late for us to admit him to the heavenly holy palace. The old man in the gray robe smiled slightly. The stunning woman looked up at the distant peak of Ziwei Mountain and smiled faintly, saying, "Well, I hope Chen Zhixing can surprise me,